I'm Emmerson Todd. Hi. And yeah, this is my new studio in Berlin. Just moved in here about a week ago, so it's pretty minimal at the moment. Being Berlin, that kind of made it suit. So yeah, it's got my bare basics in here at the moment. Still have a lot of stuff in Australia, which I will be getting sent over soon. Hopefully. I miss it. Miss my toys. I was quite lucky. I had a very musical family. My mother owned independent record stores when I was a young kid, so I really was quite lucky. I had the opportunity to just get a lot of music when I was growing up, and you know, I'd hear someone mention something, so I'd be able to ask my mum to bring me home a copy of the album. So you know, I guess I started being a collector of music before I was anything else, and then as a kid, started making mixtapes and things like that. And then one day I discovered dance music on a radio station, and got blown away by it, and then discovered that the only way I could get it was buying 12 inches. So then I started buying 12 inches, and next thing I know, I had a bit of a collection of records, and obviously started hanging out with other people that collected records, and then just I met a guy who had a bar and stuff, and he asked me to come and play, and so I first time I actually ever mixed was in a bar with people, and it was pretty disastrous. I certainly, learnt the hard way about of making yourself feel embarrassed in a crowd, making mistakes, which is, I think it's a great way to learn in the cauldron of fire and clearing dance floors. You learn what not to do very quickly. So yeah, I kind of got in it that way, and then I don't know. It just seemed very natural for me to know, how, to want to know how it was made, and obviously just talking to other people who were into the music. Learned some people had equipment, and we'd go around in their house and watch them, make music and stuff. And I even Simon Flower was one of the people. I remember when I first met Simon, I think we went around to someone's house and they were all excited because they'd just borrowed someone's 909, and I think we spent an entire evening around someone's house seeing what we could do with a 909. So yeah, that kind of just progressed naturally like that, and then I started buying my own equipment. Started with MPCs, and I ended up meeting Christian, who I had a band with for how long? House of Downtown. Wow. That was 5 years maybe, I think House of Downtown was around for. And he had been producing for some time before that. He'd been doing a lot of sort of hip-hop and sort of soul music. And he was just sort of getting into house music, and we got together, and I don't know, it just worked really well very, very quickly. I mean, I think, our first record we made, was on that first Cog CD, the Cog Transmissions one, or something, what it was, and I think, Derek May, even when he came out to New Zealand, liked it, and was playing it and stuff, and that was our first start. And then I think our second song was the one which was Whatever Comes, which ended up getting us signed to Universal Music, and for me that was like my university times. For me, that was getting paid to write music, and we went over to London to mix our first album. We worked with Mike Nielsen, which was fantastic, working with such talented people like Mike. He's an amazing engineer. So I was very lucky at a very early age to have people around me that knew a lot more than me, and I was really a sponge and just wanted to learn as much as I could. And then eventually I kind of got sick of the fact that I didn't know how to mix records, always having to rely on someone to try and mix our records for us. I could mix the odd ones, but they wouldn't just sound as good as what I knew they could. And I think that came from working with people who could make my records sound good. And then I think it must have been early 2000, SAE offered their first scholarship, and I applied for that, and I got that scholarship. I only ended up doing about 6 months of it, I think. It just was, obviously I'd done a lot more music and production than a lot of the other people, and so it moved a little bit too slow for me. But I ended up getting a job as an engineer at a studio that I'd already worked at, and so I just moved from there and started working at a recording studio, I stopped sort of producing my own stuff and really concentrated on just engineering. And that's when I did work with Pinau. I did the Presets record and worked with Teenager and worked on the Sleepy Jackson stuff and yeah, a whole bit of different stuff. And that was a really, really amazing time to lose that emotional connection that you have with your own music. You can just separate yourself and concentrate on the technical side, balancing and everything like that. And then it was a few years later that I decided that, yeah, you know what, I think I'm going to go back to doing my own music. And here I am, now in Berlin. Yeah. When I was in New Zealand, you know, I was making a comfortable living in New Zealand, DJing and producing, but musically for me, it was getting a little bit tiring. That what the scene wasn't really progressing, and you know that's just the nature of a small country. And you know, it gets a little bit tiring playing every week to the same crowds in the same places, and then touring to the same places again and again. So yeah, the SAE scholarship I got was in Australia, so I took that as a little cue to go over to Australia. And yeah, then I once I started DJing again, after sort of taking some time out in Australia, I guess I discovered the same problem. You know, Australia is bigger than Australia, but it is still in a lot of ways a much smaller scene, and you end up playing to the same crowds. I mean, coming to Europe, you don't. You know, you can go years without going back to the same club and playing to the same people. Every weekend you can play to different people, and that's really refreshing. It's really nice to be able to do that, and obviously there's a lot more clubs over here, and so therefore there's more opportunity to make more money and make a decent living out of it. And Berlin is a hell of a lot cheaper to live in than Australia and New Zealand, funny enough. Each time you move countries, you really do. You know, this is my third time now, and you really do kind of start at the bottom in a lot of ways. And you're the new kid on the block, and you've got to prove yourself again, and you've got to sort of make all the new contacts again. And you know, it is difficult because a lot of the other DJs from here, you know, they've spent their whole career DJing from here, and so therefore they've got a fan base. You know, people that have seen them for years progress, and you know, I don't have that here, so. It does make it a lot more difficult. Yeah, I mean the market's so saturated, and there's just so many DJs and producers out there. You know you have to be producing, and now it's not even just a case of just producing. You have to be producing the right records on the right labels, and you have to. It has to be consistent. You know you know if you don't have records coming out, your gigs are just going to disappear. You just have to have a steady flow of releases coming out between remixes and EPs and so forth. Yeah, like you know, I've had a bit of a difficult period over the last few months, and with just lots of different things with moving and life, and so I have had a bit of a lull patch, and yeah, you do notice it. You know, there's no interest in you anymore, and it's like, come on, what about my old records? They were good, weren't they? But music gets forgotten so quickly now. You know. You know, in the late 90s and stuff, wow, you'd buy a 12-inch and you'd play that thing for a year, if not longer. Now, records just turn through so quickly, you know. Some gigs I'll go to and I'll play, everything I play might be a week old, you know. Other stuff sprinkled in, of course. It all depends, you know, on music and what's coming out. It's really because it's so easy to put a record out now. I mean, anyone could start a label up and start distributing it online. So, and there's no cost as such to do it. There is cost in, you know, marketing it or getting it out there, mastering and things like that. But it's not like if you had a label and you were going to do a print run of 12 inches. There's an investment in that. You're making a physical product, so you know you've got to be certain that record you're signing is going to be good enough to sell. These days you can take a lot more risk and put stuff out. So you know the market's completely saturated in a lot of ways. I hope it's completely saturated, because then hopefully there's going to be a flip side. I hope it doesn't get more saturated. But yes, you know, like it's a full-time job now, just managing the amount of music that you get. You know, the amount of promos that you get sent into your inbox every week, and then going on to Beatport and what people play and all those other websites to find music is you know it's a lot of work. You've got to spend a long time trolling through stuff and trying to really look at almost trying to find stuff that people aren't playing. You know, to make yourself stand out. you know, I used to always want to have my own label. Well, we did with House of Downtown way back in the day, but you know, I have thought about starting my own label again, but you know, I just don't. The timing's not right for me just yet. And if you're going to do it, it's got to be really strategically well done. You've got to launch it correctly, and you know, have the next 4 releases lined up, and make sure that it flows out. I mean, you know, there's no point releasing a record label with a big record and then not doing anything for 3-4 months. People, you know, will tend to forget about it. And it's quite funny now. A lot of labels these days, it's all actually, the labels are becoming more about events than actual releases. You know, like most big labels run label nights around the world now. You know, and that's where they make money again to afford to do the releases. So it's quite strange. The scene's constantly evolving, and it's a hard one to keep up with sometimes. No one knows where it's going. Phil Asher was coming down to New Zealand quite a lot, and I would hang out with him, and yeah, you know, just talking about music production, and he was like, "Get an MPC, man, it does everything you need." And you know, at the time, it was the one box studio. You could write a track in it. With a 60, you could write a beat. When the 2000s came out, even though they mightn't have sounded as good as the 60, you could certainly do a lot more with them. There's a lot more sample space, which now is, you know, my iPhone has more sample space. Yeah, I guess now on a computer it's a lot more visual. You know, you're able to see so much more. You know, when on an MPC you've got a screen this big, and it's all by feel and playing things in, so you tend to stop and listen a little bit more, and so therefore you end up, you know, doing things that maybe aren't 100% correct. Start points might not be right on sounds, and it just sounds right. It sounds groovy or interesting, and I think that's the advantage you get of you know, starting on that early equipment. I would then record it to DAT. Yeah. So yeah, I had DAT. That's right. I recorded it all to DAT. I then got a little mixing desk eventually, and then I think I got like an effects box and stuff. And so yeah, it was basic, you know. And you could write a record like that. And you know, it makes you wonder when now you spend all this money on all this equipment, and it's like I had a little box and a mixer. It was really when I properly started working with Christian on House of Downtown stuff. We had a 2CI Mac. And we had like, I don't know, whatever early version of Logic it was. Yeah. And I think even then we were only using it for sequencing. Yeah, we were sequencing on it and still recording to DAT. And that was just because we had some other synths and some samplers that we wanted to add into it, and it was too complicated to do it on an MPC. So we pulled out the 2CI Mac, and I think we actually went up to I can't remember the music shop you used to work at, Music Works, and begged and got a demo version of Logic. And yeah, it came together that way. And we worked on Logic for all of our first album, and then we moved to Pro Tools when we started doing our second album, because we were doing a lot of our tracking and recording with Andy Submariner, and he uses Pro Tools, and it just was making more sense to be on the same operating system. Which, you know, in hindsight, I probably would have, looking back, I think it might have been better to stay on Logic. Pro Tools is, you know, I used Pro Tools for so many years, and it's cool and all, but it doesn't help you as such. It's, you know, it's a recording device. It's a multi-track, particularly back then, you know. But you know, even then we were still sequencing on the MPCs and stuff, and we're just recording audio. And yeah, we got an Andromeda. We got one. I think we got the first one in the country, and that was pretty cool. It was good. A massive synth. It was like, you know, I guess that was funny. You know, it was back in the days when record companies gave you money, and so we went gear crazy. I mean, I think when I brought my MPC 3000, I think it was like $4 or $5 grand or something when we first got it, and I didn't even have a car. I had a $4,000 drum machine though. But yeah, the Andromeda was good. It was pretty cool. I think it's really important to add different tones. I mean, it's a color palette, you know, and it's really good. You know, I quite often just like putting digital signals through the analog stuff to process it, just to give it some tone, or just to give it a bit of character. I think it's important to give depth. Yeah, and look, and it's something. It's an approach I definitely do. Like if I'm recording in, you know, let's say a hi-hat off a drum machine, I will try to make it the longest recording I can, and slightly tweak it and slightly move it just so it does have a bit of its own character and it does feel like it's changing. And I think you tend to do that a little bit more with the analog stuff than you do with the digital stuff. You know, the digital stuff you kind of mouse click a lot of the times. You know, I have controllers and stuff, but you just end up clicking a lot of times. It gets quite lazy. It's a bit sad, really, isn't it? This is writing music these days. My favourite speakers, I did a lot of working in a lot of big studios when I was just engineering. You know, big rock studios. You know, 150 channel consoles, and so I got to try a lot of speakers. And yeah, the Dyne Audios. As soon as I used them, I just really love them. The clarity on them is just amazing. Just yeah, my favourite speakers. So as soon as I could, I got my own pair. Don't work with a sub. I've worked at studios with subs before and I find them a little bit dangerous. I mean, if you don't have the levels right, it can be inconsistent, and I think, you know, you just get used to sort of understanding that bottom end. And I think the biggest thing is just to reference as much as you can. I mean, I probably listen to my music on about 6 different sets of speakers. Speakers at home, headphones. I've got 3 different types of headphones, 2 sets of speakers at home, and these speakers. So yeah, just listen to it on stuff as many different reference points as you can, and then you can get an understanding of how it works. So the labels I work with do definitely do all their mastering, and I really do love the mastering guys they use. I mean, that's a lot of the reasons. You know, labels get popular because of their sound. And the quality of their sound is they need to control, and so you know, I tend to want to work with labels that I like the quality of their sound, so therefore they generally have great mastering. I know a lot of guys get their own mastering done as well. I guess that hasn't been as easy for me coming from the other side of the planet. You know, we do have mastering engineers, but they don't have the years of experience in electronic music as they would over here. So I might start looking at that in the future. At this point in time, I haven't had the need to. No. I mean, I play my mixes out as they are, and they sound great. Yeah. You know, everyone thinks that when you're finishing and mixing a record, well, not everyone, sorry. People think that when you're mixing a record at the end, that when you're finishing it, you've got to try and make it as loud as you possibly can. That's not your job as a mix engineer. Your job is to get a balance of sound. And to get a balance, you need headroom. Things need space to move, and mastering will take care of the volume. And yeah, a lot of people will. They you know, I've had people, you know, kids message me and stuff and say, "How do you get your music to sound so loud?" And it's like, well, I don't. The mastering engineer does that. You know, your mix should have enough headroom to allow stuff to breathe and let the elements around it breathe. So yeah, And the thing is, when you work in an analog situation, sure, you definitely try to get as much level on a channel as you can, because you're trying to get above the floor noise. But we work in a digital realm now. There is no floor noise, so you don't necessarily need to even be that loud with a lot of stuff. It's not competing with anything. So yeah. Well, the mastering guy can't do anything with a smash record. They can't do a thing. You know, they could EQ it. They could notch some stuff out. They can't compress it. I mean, you go to a mastering studio and these guys have got, you know, $20,000 compressors and things. I mean, I want my stuff to go through a $20,000 compressor and made to sound fantastic. But you know, as soon as you stomp it, that leaves the mastering guy with nothing to be able to do. So yeah, it definitely does more damage. If you're not confident with your mixes and stuff, and you feel like they're not necessarily standing up, go to a mastering guy and have a look. And you know, these guys are, mastering guys will. You can go into a mastering guy and have a conversation. Say, look, I only want to just get these tracks done, but to be sent out on demo, I don't have a lot of money. What can we do? They'll help you. I mean, they are a business as well, you know, and the great thing is, take some music in that you like, and you know, have a listen on their speakers and have a look at what's going on, what's the differences. You know, it'll become very obvious. You know, wow, I've got no bottom end, or wow, I've got too much bottom end, which is usually the 2 most common problems. yeah, getting a control of your bottom end takes a bit of time to understand how little you need, I guess is the best way to put it. And I think this comes back to being like we were talking before about, you know, learning on an MPC and using my ears. I just listen, you know, and it's a matter of everything is relationship in a mix, you know, and it's deciding what is going to be your feature element, and therefore what's getting in the way of that feature element. Where's the bass need to sit in relation to the kick, and that takes time. That just takes experience, you know. And the more things you do, the more tracks you do, the better you get at it. I mean, if you're starting out, the best thing to do is to keep writing as many tracks as you can, not sit on one track trying to finish the masterpiece, which you know, so many people will do, just sit there constantly trying to finish this one track, and it's like, hey, maybe that's as far as you're going to get with it. Yeah. Accept it, you know. Man, I probably only end up releasing 20% of my records I write. You know, I write so much stuff, and it's quality control, you know. Some of the stuff I write's rubbish. I'm the first person to admit it. But I'll keep it there, and you know what? I might come back later and go, wow, that groove there that I wrote there, that's really good, and I'll take that and use it on another track. Yeah. Wow, who knows now? Who really knows? It's so much more now about timing and about what record label and when it was released, and you know, who charted it and all those things. Obviously, yeah, there's certain things you can do that give you more of an advantage. Releasing on the right labels and making sure you've got enough lead up to it and you're getting it into the right DJ's hands beforehand. But yeah, I'm amazed sometimes what you see at the top of some of the charts. Like, really? Wow. Okay, I could have. Yeah, it is interesting. It's quite funny. I don't know. The dance music scene's almost become like top of the pops, you know, or like the English, you know, I think what's the record in England for #1 records, like 6 weeks, the longest running record or something like that. It's a week's, not a long time, and it's like, dance music's like that. It's just turning over so quickly. Music's getting forgotten, which is really sad because, you know, in a lot of ways, music's become devalued, which is sad because, you know, I would love nothing more than to be able to actually just be able to afford to sit in my studio and write music all the time. But I don't really make that much money from writing the music. You make it from doing the gigs. I use Native Instruments Tractor Pro. It's my favorite. Yeah, I use Tractor on vinyl. Yeah. I really like it. It's the best of both worlds. You know, I love the feel of playing on records on vinyl. It's I was on CDJs when they first came out for quite some time, purely for the ease of burning my own music, and then that started obviously downloading music and burning it. But I really got sick of burning CDs. Every freaking weekend, you know, you've got your music and then it's sitting there burning, and then my laptop, the CD burner busted, and it was just a nightmare. And so yeah, now I use Tractor and I really like it. I love the feel of playing on vinyl. It's nice. It's not perfect. Yeah. It drifts. Whoa, hey, come back here. You know, and this is the other problem that you get a lot now, is that because it's not so bad in somewhere like Germany. Because you know, vinyl's still so much used over here. CDJs are still secondary here, and but you know, a lot of places you can go to, and the turntables aren't serviced or looked after because they just don't get used as much anymore. Yeah, it's like, you know, I've been playing in places and moved the pitch fader, and that thing's just gone crazy and gone woo, woo, woo. It's, you know, it's part of the joy, I guess. Yeah, and then those new Spaceship CDJ 2000s, man. I was actually I was played at in Sankey's with and James Abelia was doing the first official gig with the 2000s. They had all these pioneer technicians there, and yeah, things were going a little bit wrong. There was technicians leaning over the front, plugging cables out, and I was like, wow, this isn't really selling it. Look, technology's a wonderful thing, and it's a nightmare too. You know, I actually had a bit of trouble on the weekend with my laptop, I will say. I believe it's my laptop. Kindly, I know the guys at Native Instruments, and they're going to have a look for me and check it out. But yeah, you know, it just started dropping out, and it was getting clean time code, and You know, it's the joy of just being able to put the record down and play is a fantastic thing. But you know, needles jump as well. But yeah, it's a lot easier over here with technology. With, let's say, you know, showing up. A lot of the clubs already have tractor boxes in the club, so you just show up and you put a USB straight into your computer and off you go. It can get really nerve-wracking when you play at gigs and you've got to get there and you've got to pull your cables out, plug them in, and you'll play some places and you'll look over the back of the mixer and it's just piles of cables and it's like, fuck, what the hell am I going to do here? I'm going to pull the wrong thing out and I'm going to kill the sound. I think I've done that somewhere actually. Some gig I did it and I think it was someone like, I was actually playing with Tim Green, that's right. Oh, it wasn't me, it was the CDJ, there you go. The CDJ was playing up, but I was leaning over the back trying to plug my tractor stuff in, and the music stopped. And Tim just looks over at me with this death look, and I'm like, it wasn't me, honest. And then I look, and I hadn't touched anything, and then he played a bit longer, and the CDJ cracked out again, and so they had to replace the CDJ, but yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, you know, technology is helping us, but it's also putting a bit of a divide in between us and the audience at times as well. I mean, I hate it when I see a DJ standing in front of their laptop, you know, staring over their laptop like this, working away, and you know, sure they need to concentrate and stuff, but man, it's about you and the laptop all of a sudden, not you and the crowd. Yeah, it's a funny one. I try to make sure I keep my laptop to the side. Even a few gigs when I can, when there's a space to do it, I actually put it behind me. And it makes it really feel like it's your DJ bag. Go back to your DJ bag, choose your record. Yeah, you see people with those stands and they put them right in front of the mixer and it's right there and it's like, it just doesn't even look good. And what are you doing, selling Apple laptops or something? Yeah, I know, yeah. Apple is certainly making a bit of promo money out of all that. The thing that got it for Tractor over was the user interface, for one. And then the effects and looping and all of that that changed my life as a DJ. Yeah. Like CDs kind of changed. Going on to CDJs changed it a little bit. You know, I remember being the first time in a club in New Zealand and making a loop on a CDJ and freaking the crowd out. They're like, you know, used the 12 inches, and it was very obvious that it was a loop. It was probably a bad loop, which made it more obvious. But the crowd just freaked out on it, you know. And it's like when Tractor first, you know, I first started using Tractor and all those effects, you know, before that you had just your, you know, the people using your Pioneer effects and the mixes and stuff, which aren't the best sounding, and DJs just overused them, and it was very typical. And you know, and to be able to have that control, I mean, for me, my favourite function in Tractor is beat moving, is being able to move forward or backwards in time, you know. And it's when I'm queuing up and I'll be playing two records and you can visually see what's going on and you're like, ooh, look, those breakdowns are close together, back, line them up, beautiful. You can, I call it the producing of DJing. You know, you can really sit there and produce your DJing and look at arrangement and then using the effects to enhance that arrangement. So yeah, I really love Tractor for that reason. Yeah, I guess I'm trying to get back to that mentality of letting the music speak and just DJing well. Like I said, the thing I use the most is the beat skipping and or whatever it's shuffle, skip, whatever it is, and loops. Beat jump, that's it, yeah. And loops. It's the you know, I'll use a loop just about every track. Yeah. Well, I love to mix, you know. I actually just enjoy keeping records in time, you know. I used to play 3 decks all the time, and so quite often, even though you know the other track's still got 6 minutes to go, whatever, I'll have the other one already looped up, playing in my headphones, just so I can make sure it's locked. To be honest, I haven't heard anyone. Everyone that I've heard play in sync, I find it really flat. I'm sure people will prove me wrong on that. I'm sure there's some amazing people that do it. For me, I love human error. I love hearing a record move out. You know, you go listen to Ricardo play, man, and sometimes, you know, you're questioning, did he just fuck up then? Was that on purpose or what? But you know, that's all part of it. It's the, you know, I worry that the machine gets in the way too much. You know, it's certainly. But you know, I've seen a lot of friends go that way, and they get so into the looping and the effects, and it becomes more about them having fun on the tractor than them entertaining a crowd. I mean, you're a DJ. Your job is to entertain the audience. That's what you're there to do, not to entertain yourself as such. If, you know, it's the best job in the world. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's fun, but yeah, you're there to entertain the crowd. Yeah, there's a funny one. There's a lot of live acts that they're not live. They're pre-sequenced. You know, I've seen. I won't name names, but I've seen live performers who have their tracks in the sequence view in Ableton, one after the other, already pre-mixed, and all they're doing is sitting over the top going with a synth. You know, and it's like it's taking the piss, man. You know, it's like, you know, it's interesting. You know, as and it is part of this change that's going on. You know, it's getting easier now for people to write music as well as DJ. You know, so there's a lot of people out there who are using loops, they're writing all with loops, and then they're going out and, well, you know, writing loops, releasing, and then they're going out and they're DJing and track to sing. I'm not saying that's not right. I'm just saying it's very different from where I come from, and that's part of where the scene's going. You know, I really hope what's going to happen is that because of all this, what's going to happen is that there's going to be, you know, a rise again of a focus back to the DJ skills, going back to a DJ who's actually DJing and doing stuff, not letting a machine do it for them. I hope that'll happen. In a lot of ways, I feel it kind of already is in some places. You know. There are some amazing DJs out there who still all play vinyl. I'm not saying that's the answer, but it's, you know, I love the fact of watching a DJ actually work it, you know. I don't know, after doing it for 5 years with House of Downtown as performing roadies, you know, we used to, I think when we flew, we had 120 odd kilograms of equipment, 2 guys. So, you know, it was good fun. It was great to do it with someone else. I guess in a lot of ways I don't feel I have the material to do a live show that I'd want to do yet. Yeah, maybe kind of good. I think you can charge more and you can do less hours. Yeah. Well, my flatmate's actually just got an iPad, so I brought that Electro Tribe, the Korg Electro Tribe, €11. And it's really good. I was quite shocked. You know, it's €11 and you can export the audio. And yeah, I was quite impressed. So that's going to be, you know, that's another thing that's going to be changing a lot soon, is that as technology is changing and platforms changing, you know, we're going into iPhones and iPads. There's going to be a whole new world of applications that are going to be coming out soon. And, you know, I guarantee in a year you're going to see people out performing on iPads. I mean, you know, I know people are already using them as controllers as such for other stuff, but yeah, I wouldn't surprise me if we're going to see people out actually performing on them. It's this thing where technology is, you know, there's more, I guess, technology is getting cheaper to develop these sort of things, or the hardware for it. So there's people who are just taking advantage of that and seeing the possibilities. I mean, no one, you know, we don't know where it's going to go, because I think it's going to go in multiple directions, you know. Certain people are going to go one way, certain people are going to go the other. Yeah, big screens. I think it's becoming once again a greater barrier between you and the audience. I don't know how that'll play out. You know, maybe it's more of a desk that you play on than a screen in front of you. I have seen that one with the what is it, the emulator for Tractor. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a bit weird. Dr. Spock, I think we found a problem here. This track isn't in sync. Oh, that's a very difficult question at this point in time in my life. Yeah, there's been too much that's just happened in my life right now for me to be able to think of that. I'm actually just enjoying rediscovering, you know, myself in a new country, and setting my new life up here, really. I guess I've had a good, year or two now of being very unsettled and lots of travel, and I'm going to be staying here for a while, and I'm even going to stay for the winter, well, a little bit of the winter, which is kind of scary. But yeah, I kind of need to settle down for a bit now and then, and just get my studio set up. And I mean, I haven't had my own studio in a year and a half now, so it's quite nice to finally have my own room and get this all set up and hang out here with friends and write music. That's what I'm really looking forward to doing at the moment, is just getting my studio set up, getting some music happening, working with some people, and having fun with it. It's all about fun in the end. I mean, if you're not having fun, you shouldn't be doing it, really. Once it becomes a strain. Like, I mean, it's always stressful. I mean, doing remixes can be very stressful. You have such stupid timelines on them these days, and it can be very stressful because you feel like you're not getting the opportunity to deliver your best work. But I wouldn't change it for the world. I love doing this, Yeah, it's good. I love writing music. I love the opportunities it gives me.